Yeah, good.
Jack, I want to revisit initial offer and follow-ups. And for a long time, we've been saying, hey, value offer, value CTA, and so on. But I think I came up with like a formula that I find it's pretty interesting and also help people.
So this is like the follow-up formula.
Yeah, pretty much like until now, we were like, doing like you send an offer and then you kind of like say, okay, well, if you don't want a phone call, then maybe, can I send you a video or some stuff like that? But it's more always more or less the same sort of offer in a sense, or always like directing toward the same thing, but with a lower commitment every time so that we get, at least a yes. Can you send you then a sticker? And it's just like, yes,
Right,
at the end. So,
right.
can we go on a coffee shop tomorrow? No. Okay. Well, maybe I can send you a video. No. Okay. Maybe I can send you a PDF, that sort
Right.
of
Okay.
things.
So different way of seeing how you vary your calls to action, your offers.
Yeah, basically. And I think, I mean, it's a no-brainer. It's already like 10 times, like 100 times better than like, hey, have you seen my email of yesterday? I want to ask you the same thing. And by the way, here's the same CTA. I still want to jump on a call. That we agree, right? But I think like, as I've been reflecting on how we build follow-ups, I've been thinking like, hey, why don't we build it as a sort of like sales letter with a proper upsell and a proper downsell? So I've been reflecting of what I've been doing in the past that worked. And in the past, we were offering people to mention them in your newsletter in exchange for a link on a website. Right? That was your first email. But the second email, we say like, hey, if that doesn't work for you, how about we do a guest blog for you? Because then we know we could put your link anyway. But it's like
Right.
kind of like a bigger ask, if you see what I mean. But it's something different. They may be receptive to that different offer.
So is there a psychology behind starting with like a medium offer and then upgrading to a harder offer and then dropping way down? Is that premeditated?
I think I did it like this because it sounded like good, like to say like, oh, let's do it this way. But the more I'm thinking about it and the more I see example, the more I think like, oh man, this is smart actually. It's like the being smart in retrospect kind of thing. I
Right.
think it touched a lot of psychology things.
Yeah. So I think in psychology, you have the foot in the door where you just ask for something really small, easy to say yes to, and then you upsell after that. Or there's the door in the face where you say, hey, can I borrow your car for the weekend? Oh, no. Can you just give me a ride to the airport? Right. So making it extremely difficult to say
Yeah,
yes and
there's a
then making
contrast.
it exactly. So that's in play here at some level,
Um,
correct?
yes, at some level, it definitely is. So our third offer was like, hey, if none of that work, why don't we jump on a webinar together? Or like, hey, we got this community, like, can I send you like a free trial of our software? Or like something else that is actually easier to accept or like or no-brainer to say yes
Bingo.
to, right? Because
Bingo.
for your example, I will be like, hey, do you want to join, so for example, you could say like, hey, um, we are really we want to give you like 1 lead a day. By the way, for everyone watching, this is SalesBread. This is an amazing agency. So I'll be like, hey, do you want a lead a day? Like, would a lead a day will be working? Maybe let's
Right.
say they won't say anything. Then you could come up with like, we do have a premium package as well, so we could effectively do 10 leads a day if 1 lead a day is not enough for you. And then the
Bingo.
third follow up will be like, hey, if none of this works, like, why don't you join my newsletter? Like, at least, you'll get some nuggets. Doesn't
Right.
matter if you're with. So, sort of like,
Love that.
if people don't reply immediately because they're busy, they're like that big premium offer is like, oh, maybe the first offer was actually pretty good, or like was actually like a nice, correct offer. And if they're still
Right.
waiting and so on, it's like, yeah, maybe it's not the right time for me. So maybe I'll jump on a small offer either. And so I stay in that
I
world.
I love that. I think where the gold is here is kind of twofold. One is you're making it harder for them to ignore your message by presenting drastically different value props, right? If
Yeah.
if you don't want this, we can also do that. But there's a second thing that this addresses that I think I'll call it like 99% of cold outreach campaigns ignore, and that's on the last step. If they are not ready to have a buying conversation with you right now, or even a pain conversation, perhaps they will be very relevant in 6 months from now. And thus, shouldn't we be moving them towards some level of engagement with the brand, from sign up to the newsletter, follow my company page, and everything in between, right? Join my Facebook group. It just feels like you kind of want them to join your universe, even if they're not quite ready. And I think that's been largely untapped for this show. And again, almost every cold outreach campaign.
Yeah, I think you're spot on, and it is to some extent similar to applying for a job. It's still the same thing. You're still fishing for a yes, right? And a lot of people are transactional. It's like, oh no, okay, I'm moving to the next company. Oh no, whatever. And I was talking to some guy, and he was saying like, oh well, I apply next year. You know, I'm thinking of using this year for traveling and so on. I was like, dude, you get it wrong. You did it all wrong. Apply now, and then they will probably say no anyway. But then next
Right.
year you reapply when you're ready and you say like, hey, I really want to join your company. And because you already applied, you already gained some like capital, right? In
Wow.
that sense. I mean, that's exactly
That's
the sort of
interesting.
tackle you need to do.
All right. So just kind of like let's do a thought experiment here. Imagine there's a listener who's saying, guys, should I actually lead with my downsell and first get him on my newsletter to slowly kind of warm him up? Is there any merit there?
Good question. I would love to know. I have my idea. I'd love to hear
Yeah.
yours.
So in my book, if two things happen, is probably not a bad idea. Thing one is you need to establish a lot of trust with your leads before they feel comfortable with buying. I think in some level, when you're doing outbound as a consultant, this is kind of in that mix here where they're not going to bring you on as their growth, their fractional CMO, for example, if they haven't been impressed with your stuff before. So this is probably a good idea. And then the second area is like long sales cycles. If you're comfortable allowing 6, 7, 8, 12 months before deals start coming through, if you're in that kind of market, yeah. Everyone else, I would probably say don't lead with the really soft stuff. What do you think?
Good one. I think I would not like to lead with the soft stuff because of probably two reasons. The first one is I think it will kind of like look desperate. It's like, look, it's hard enough to contact people, and
Yeah.
why would you just want like, hey, can I want your full attention to answer me yes for that tiny little thing. It's like, dude, like that's weird to me. So I think it's more
Sure.
important. And then the second thing, it could be that it may sound disingenuous. Like if I say like if I reach out to you, I have a SaaS business that do like obviously cold outreach, quick mail, quickmail.com. If I reach out to you with
Yeah.
that and I say like, and I actually try to sell you, something like I don't know, like coming to my newsletter or whatever, it's like, why don't you ask me? Like there's
Wait a
something
minute.
fishy there. So I like to always like this is my philosophy is I like to come up
Oh,
front
that's
stuff
interesting.
first thing.
Yeah.
And then if that doesn't work, then that's fine. At least I establish like what I'm good for, but I still want to bring value. And so I will bring something else to the mix. And this actually works so much better anyway than the breakup email, right? Like the passive aggressive, like, look, you didn't reply to
Yeah.
me, fuck off. Like this is
We're
your last
done.
chance.
Right. Yeah,
Right?
that's it's almost like the new breakup email.
That's
I'm
right.
with you 100%. It's almost like that breakup email was much harsher than it needed to be. But I'm thinking, Jeremy, that if you phrase it correctly and you're in this scenario where you do have to establish a lot of trust here, imagine they said, hey, Jeremy, we just connected. If it's on LinkedIn or if it's a cold email, you might say, hey, we've been putting a lot of content on our YouTube channel just for SaaS owners, particularly in the lead gen space. If you're looking at these two topics, I'd invite you to follow us there, and that's it. Right? Like, what if you just like ended there? Right? Again, this is more like devil's advocate kind of conversation. I don't think either one of us are like, this is amazing, but maybe that's
Yeah,
why it just deserves the final, new breakup position at the very end, right?
yeah, it could be. I think it's kind of like, oh, here's the other influence factor, and obviously we forgot the 10 minutes, but so we're gonna end up at some point. But
I
here's the
almost
other
was like, should we put a 10-minute timer? I was like, nah, this will be one knockout. Yeah, here we are.
almost. But thanks for listening, guys. Um, Hopefully there's still more nuggets to come. But basically, look at it this way. If you come here and you say, I think this is like in Cialdini's book, right, about influence. Like, hey, I come up and I ask you, like, do you want a raffle ticket? And you kind of like feel, I'm sorry, I don't want a raffle ticket, or like, oh, like, I think it's a big thing first. It just asks for like a big commitment. Like, do you want to buy a
Yeah.
ticket for
Will you
something, right?
donate to? Will you buy a
Yeah,
$100 ticket to our fundraising
there you go.
dinner?
There you go. Exactly that. And then it's just like you kind of like feel bad to say no in a sense, like, yeah, maybe like if I think for those guys that like the perfect audience, but they're not quite ready to buy, or like they need a bit more convincing, right? So when you come up with the next or the third offer, that's like, like in that example will be like, hey, do you want like $100 ticket to your fundraising? It's like, okay, if you can't do it, then we have like, a 1 million bucks, a dinner with that. So kind of like come up like, yeah, okay, you're funny, but like, yeah, I'm not interested in the first one. But then you come up with like chocolate bar. Well, how about like a $2 chocolate bar? And you kind of like feel bad of having said no already. And that person's kind
Yeah,
of nice persistence. I like the positive persistence, and that's definitely one of example of that. So more likely to then say like, yeah, I get your $2 stuff. Like I get your chocolate bar. That's fine.
yeah. So I kind of all right. The only other area I want to hit on is this like step. So you kind of come at like the middle offer, and then you go higher, and then you drop all the way
Premium,
to the
ideally.
like, what do you call that? I guess a tripwire or the downsell, like classic
Downsell.
downsell.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. So um, I think whatever that first offer is should be the one that's most likely going to bring your yeses, because think about two things,
Yeah.
like engagement rates on cold outreach. You need good response rates in order to keep this thing going, in order to enjoy good deliverability. So consider as well, like, where the majority of responses come. I mean, Jeremy, you probably know this cold, but is it is something like more than half of the responses come on that first touch, and then the other half come on the follow-ups?
So it really depends on the campaign. Sometimes the first touch, but usually it's the first and the second. So whether
Sweet.
it's one way or the other. It depends also
Sweet.
on your cadence. Maybe you're just waiting 2 days between. Maybe
Good
you're waiting a
point.
week between. But
Good point.
consider this example, Jack. Like imagine you're a ghostwriter for people on LinkedIn. So your first offer will be something like, "Hey, seems like you're writing a few posts, seems to have good engagement. We're actually like specializing in like copying your voice and actually just multiply that. So if you don't have time for that, this is what we're good at.
Cool.
Here's some
Yeah.
examples. Here's how we've been doing great. Is that something you would consider? Do you want to become an authority on LinkedIn, for example? The next one could be like, by the way, we also do newsletter as well. So if you're also looking to expand into that, then we could also, tackle that, right? And so,
How about I write the first newsletter for free? I've already reviewed your
okay, you're
first
good.
one.
So I don't think you I don't think that
Thank you,
stand in
Jeremy. Thank you.
in
Thank
industry,
you. Thank you.
but definitely like godlike. But then the third one will be like, hey, if you don't have that, well, we have like a $50 PDF that you can give to your VA, so they can implement that system themselves. That's a sort of like thing I'm thinking is like in
Brilliant.
all those three angles, like you really tackle like, yeah, I need more than just someone who come in and just do a few posts. Oh, you also do my whole, newsletter too. Okay. So that's what I would call like the upsells. So now like you will get more reply with the second one or the first one. It could be that on the second one, you are saying like, actually, no, your LinkedIn stuff seems interesting. Tell me more, you know?
Brilliant.
So I'm kind of like thinking like you don't necessarily have a yes for the exact email you're sending. Could be for the first offer, right? And when you say the last one, you say like, hey, you know what? Like, let's jump on a call and figure out what we could do here. I think that will be more likely than effectively like email three, yes, then it's for email three, value.
I I just hope when you're listening to this, you just make sure you're not doing the breakup email from 2019 and you adapt this, because it's solid gold. Thank you for sharing that, Jeremy.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you a quick question, and then we can end up here. Um, do you have on the top of your mind, like obviously a lot of clients come to you, right? And I mean, to me, I like every time someone asks you, oh, you're obviously the best in in that game. But do you have like clients who actually have multiple offer? They can like, do you actually try to package the offer, or is it always sort of like this is a one offer, and then we're trying different
Yeah,
angles to actually sell it?
great question. So call it what it
Just
is.
curious.
Yeah, call it what it is. Most of the clients that I work with, they need an offer workshop like as we get going because they're just like, okay, we sell this. You know, more often than not, there's a singular service or product that they're trying to pitch, and there isn't a well-defined like offer one, offer
Of a
two, offer
other
three.
path. Yeah, like a newsletter,
Yeah.
like we get you in our ecosystem or in our
So
world, and then we'll sell
yeah.
you later.
So
Got it.
one thing I will share, Jeremy, is when we do our kickoff call, um, in the beginning of that call, I point out, I say, just so you know where we're heading, most of our brain power today is going to be spent not just on messaging, but specifically on the offer part of the message. So this is where I'm going to ask, okay, we all want a phone call with these, prospects and leads. Great. But what's the carrot on the stick for said phone call? And if they don't engage to the phone call step, what else can we offer them? And then there's where I'll throw out, trial as a gift. Potentially that's on the
Mm,
table. Think about it from a marketing expense. What are you willing to pay towards your new customers in order to acquire more of them? And that starts to get the gears turning. It's like, well, if I unlocked, yeah, I would pay $1,000 to like really bring in a Fortune 500. So then what would that allow us to do internally? I know, and that's the way to think about it. What marketing expense would you be comfortable giving to these target accounts? And hopefully, if you're an agency listening or you're a business owner, that helps you unlock some budget to really make a great offer because we know it impacts results. Yeah,
love it. All right,
sweet.
Jack. Thanks so much.
This was a wonderful one, Jeremy. Thank you for coming up with the idea of a new breakup email,
Yeah.
and I love it, man. Yeah, super fun.
Thanks for jamming with me, Jack.
Always, man. All right,
Bye
bye.
bye.